The morning sun glinted off the glass facade of Anderson Global Tower as my Bentley pulled into the private parking garage. 5 years ago, I would have been arriving in my beat-up Honda, parking in the public lot across the street. Amazing how much can change while appearing to stay exactly the same. Your 9 a.m. meeting with the Asian investors is confirmed, Ms. Carter, Emma said, her heels clicking against the polished floor as we walked to the private elevator. And the quarterly projections exceeded expectations by 23%. I nodded, adjusting my Cartier watch, a small reward I'd given myself after my first billion. Send the projections to my private server. Emma, make sure no one connects those numbers to tonight's dinner. The elevator ride to the 47th floor gave me a moment to reflect. 5 years of careful maneuvering, of building my empire from the shadows while my family remained blissfully unaware. Every dismissive comment, every condescending smile, they'd all fueled my determination. Your coffee, Miss Carter. Emma handed me the steaming cup as we entered my office. And your father called again this morning. He wanted to remind you about dinner and, well, let me guess, I smiled, settling behind my mahogany desk. He asked if I was still playing business with my little consulting firm. Emma nodded, her expression carefully neutral. She'd been with me from the beginning, watching as I transformed that little consulting firm into a corporate juggernaut that now controlled over 30 major companies, including, through a complex web of shell corporations, Anderson Global itself. The memory of how it all started played through my mind as I reviewed the morning's contracts. I was 23, fresh out of business school with honors, ready to join the family company my grandfather had built from nothing. I'd spent years preparing, interning at top firms, studying market trends, developing innovative strategies for modernization. You're not ready, my father had declared from behind his massive desk, barely glancing at the comprehensive business plan I'd spent months preparing. This is a serious company, Sarah, not some classroom project. Maybe in a few years, once you understand how the real world works. My mother's voice had cut even deeper. Honestly, darling, did you really expect us to just hand you a position? Your brother Michael worked his way up from the bottom. He earned his place. I picked up the latest report from the European division, the one my accomplished brother Michael now headed. Revenue down 40% in the last quarter alone. 3 failed product launches. 2 discrimination lawsuits from female employees. Yet they kept promoting him, kept praising his bold leadership style. Emma, I called out. Bring me the complete files on the European division. And get legal on the line. I want those discrimination suits settled before tomorrow's board meeting. She appeared with a thick stack of folders. Already done. The settlements are ready for your signature. Also, your brother left 3 messages about his new proposal for expanding the European operations. I scanned the top folder, another half-baked scheme that would cost millions with minimal return. File the proposal with the others. After tomorrow, he'll learn that family connections no longer guarantee automatic approval. The day progressed with a steady stream of calls and meetings. My little consulting firm, actually a massive corporate conglomerate operating under various names, had just acquired its 15th Fortune 500 company. Each acquisition carefully chosen to strengthen our market position, each success kept quiet from my family. Your mother sent another text, Emma reported mid-afternoon. She wants to make sure you're dressing appropriately for dinner at Le Blanc. I glanced down at my bespoke Chanel suit and Christian Louboutin heels, an outfit worth more than my parents' monthly mortgage payment. Tell her I'll do my best not to embarrass them. As the afternoon wore on, I reviewed the documents for tomorrow's board meeting, the meeting where I would finally reveal myself as the majority shareholder of Anderson Global. Every detail had to be perfect. Every legal avenue covered. Every potential challenge anticipated. The private dining room at Le Blanc is confirmed, Emma said, bringing in another stack of reports. The CEO will arrive at 7:30, exactly as planned. Are you sure you want to do this tonight? I picked up a framed photo from my desk, my grandfather on the day he opened the first Anderson Global office. He'd believed in me, had seen my potential even when my parents couldn't. Before he passed, he'd taken me aside at his last birthday dinner. Don't let them dim your light, Sarah, he'd said, pressing something into my hand, a letter with instructions for accessing his private investment account. Show them what you can do. But do it smart. Do it right. That account had been the seed money for my empire. Every cent invested carefully, every move calculated. Now, 5 years later, I controlled not just Anderson Global, but dozens of other companies across 3 continents. My phone buzzed, another text from Mom, "Please don't be late tonight. And try to have something meaningful to talk about. Your brother's bringing news about his latest business success." I pulled up the real numbers from Michael's division on my tablet. Success wasn't quite the word I'd use. But soon, very soon, they'd all learn what real success looked like. "Emma," I called out. "Is everything ready for tomorrow?" She appeared in the doorway with a knowing smile. All board members confirmed their attendance. Legal team standing by. Press release drafted. And the CEO is prepared for his role tonight. I stood, gathering my things as the sun began to set over the city skyline. 5 years of careful planning were about to culminate in one dinner, one meeting, one moment of revelation. "The car is waiting, Miss Carter," Emma said softly. "Are you ready?" I caught my reflection in the window, no longer the insecure daughter they'd dismissed, but a woman who controlled billions. Who had built something far beyond their imagination. Who was about to show them exactly what their disappointment had achieved. "Ready?" I smiled, picking up my purse. "I've been ready for 5 years. Let's give them a dinner they'll never forget." Lou Blanc's private dining room sparkled with understated elegance, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the hand-painted walls. I'd arrived 15 minutes early, selecting a seat that would give me the perfect view of their faces when the moment came. "Your usual champagne, Miss Carter?" the sommelier asked discreetly. I'd bought Lou Blanc 3 months ago through one of my holding companies, though my family didn't know that either. "Yes, Pierre. And please keep it flowing when my family arrives." I checked my phone, 6:57 p.m. "They'll need it." Right on cue, my mother's voice echoed from the main dining room. "But we always have the corner table." "What do you mean it's reserved?" I smiled, imagining the scene. The corner table, their regular spot for 20 years, was now part of my private dining area. The maitre d' would be directing them here any moment. "Sarah." My mother's perfectly coiffed head appeared around the door. "What are you doing in the private section?" "I made the reservation," I said simply, watching as they filed in, Mother in her predictable pearls, Father straightening his tie, and Michael looking smug in his ill-fitting designer suit. "You." Mother's eyebrows shot up. "But, how did you manage to reserve the private dining room? It's impossible to book without connections." "Perhaps our little consultant is finally learning to network," Michael smirked, dropping into the chair across from me. "Though I doubt your connections compare to my new deal with European investors." I sipped my champagne, thinking of the report on my desk detailing his division's latest catastrophic quarter. How fascinating. Do tell us about these investors. For the next 20 minutes, I endured Michael's grandiose tales of his supposed business prowess, while our parents beamed with pride. Each exaggeration, each outright lie, was carefully noted in my mental ledger. "And that's why I'm proposing a complete restructuring of the European division," Michael concluded triumphantly. "Once the board approves my plan tomorrow. The board." I couldn't help but interrupt. "Don't you need shareholder approval for major restructuring?" Father frowned. "Sarah, don't interrupt your brother with technical details you don't understand. The board knows to trust Michael's judgment." "Of course," I smiled. "Speaking of the board, isn't that James Morton by the bar?" They turned to look at Anderson Global CEO, who was indeed making his way toward our table. I timed his entrance perfectly. "James." Father stood, extending his hand. "I didn't expect to see you tonight. Join us." James ignored the offered hand, his eyes fixed on me. "Madam Chairman, I apologize for interrupting your dinner, but there's an urgent matter requiring your attention." The silence that followed was delicious. Mother's fork clattered against her plate. Father's face froze mid-smile. Michael's wine glass stopped halfway to his mouth. "Chairman." Father's voice cracked. "There must be some mistake. I'm the chairman of Anderson Global." James pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. "Perhaps you should review the latest shareholder registry, Mr. Anderson. As of last month, the majority of voting shares are held by Carter Enterprises." "Carter." Mother's face went pale. "But that's my company." I finished for her, enjoying the way color drained from Michael's face. Well, one of them anyway. Impossible, Father spluttered. You run a small consulting firm. You couldn't possibly. Actually, Father, I run one of the largest private investment groups in Asia. That small consulting firm was just the beginning. Would you like to know what else I own? This is absurd. Michael stood up, his chair scraping loudly. I'm calling our lawyers. You mean Martinez and Associates? I smiled. I acquired them last year. Along with your favorite restaurant, your country club, and that private jet service you love to use. When Michael, about tomorrow's board meeting, your restructuring plan has been denied. The maitre d' appeared with a fresh bottle of champagne. Compliments of the house, Madam Owner. Mother's hand flew to her throat. Owner? You own Leblanc too. Among other things. I gestured for James to sit. Now shall we discuss the real state of the European division? Those discrimination lawsuits are particularly concerning. Discrimination lawsuits? Father turned to Michael, who had suddenly found his empty plate fascinating. Oh yes, I pulled out my own tablet. Shall I share the actual numbers? The failed launches? The missing funds? It's quite an interesting read. The next hour unfolded exactly as I'd planned, every revelation calculated, every disclosure timed for maximum impact. By dessert, my family's worldview had completely unraveled. But why? Mother finally asked, her voice small. Why didn't you tell us? I set down my coffee cup, meeting their eyes one by one. Because 5 years ago you made it very clear that I needed to learn how business really works. Consider this my final exam. James's phone buzzed. Madam Chairman, the Asian markets are opening. Shall I have the car brought around? Yes, I stood, smoothing my skirt. Mother, Father, Michael, this has been enlightening. I'll see you all at tomorrow's board meeting. I believe there are some personnel changes to discuss. As I turned to leave, Father's voice stopped me. Sir, wait. We should talk about this. As a family. I looked back, remembering all the family dinners where they dismissed my ideas, mocked my ambitions, praised Michael while ignoring my achievements. Of course, I smiled. My office tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Do try to be on time. I own the building now and tardiness has become quite expensive. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my executive office, formerly my father's office, as I reviewed the final documents for the board meeting. The Anderson Global logo cast long shadows across the polished floor, a reminder of everything that was about to change. They're here, Emma announced through the intercom. Your parents and brother are waiting in the main conference room. I checked my watch, 7:55 a.m. And the other board members? Arriving now. The press is assembled in the lobby as requested. Legal team standing by. Perfect. I gathered my files and stood, catching my reflection in the window. The scared young woman they dismissed 5 years ago was gone. In her place stood someone they were about to truly meet for the first time. The walk to the conference room felt like a victory lap. Employees scrambled to attention as I passed, their whispers following in my wake. News of last night's dinner had spread fast. I paused outside the conference room, hearing the heated whispers from within. She can't do this. Michael's voice was raised. There must be some legal way to stop her. Lower your voice, Mother hissed. The other board members are arriving. I pushed open the doors and the room fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, the full board of directors, senior executives, and my family, all waiting to see what would happen next. Good morning, I smiled, taking my place at the head of the table, my father's former seat. Shall we begin? Now wait just a minute. Father stood, his face flushed. You can't just walk in here and dash. Actually, I can, I interrupted, nodding to Emma, who began distributing folders. As majority shareholder and newly elected chairwoman of the board, I can do exactly that. Please, everyone, review the documents in front of you. The room filled with the sound of rustling papers and sharp intakes of breath as the full scope of my takeover became clear. These financial reports, one board member spoke up, they show the true state of our European division under Michael's leadership, I finished. A 40% revenue decline. 3 failed product launches. Multiple discrimination lawsuits. All carefully hidden through creative accounting. Michael jumped to his feet. That's a lie. I demand dash. You're not in a position to demand anything. I cut him off, pressing a button on my tablet. The room's screens lit up with detailed financial analyses. Every transaction, every failed project, every covered-up mistake, it's all here. And that's just the beginning. I stood, commanding the room's attention. For 5 years I've watched this company, my grandfather's legacy, being mismanaged through nepotism and outdated thinking. While you promoted unqualified family members, I glanced at Michael and ignored innovative opportunities. I built something bigger. Something better. The screens changed, showing a complex web of companies and acquisitions. Cartier Enterprises now controls not just Anderson Global, but 37 other major corporations. We've tripled our market value, expanded into emerging markets, and modernized our entire operation. But your consulting firm, Father's voice was weak, was just the beginning. I smiled. While you were mocking my little business, I was building an empire. One that now controls everything from tech startups to international banking groups. Including, as of this morning, every company that Anderson Global does business with. The room erupted in chaos. Board members whispered frantically, executives shuffled papers, my mother looked like she might faint. This is how it's going to work, I continued, my voice cutting through the noise. First, there will be some leadership changes. Michael, you're removed from all positions effective immediately. Father, you can either step down gracefully or be voted out, your choice. You can't do this to family, Mother protested weakly. Family. I laughed. Was it family when you dismissed every idea I brought to the table? When you promoted Michael despite his obvious incompetence? When you told me I'd never understand real business? I pressed another button, and the screens showed a new organizational chart. These are your new department heads, selected for their skill, not their last name. Our Asian expansion begins next month. European operations will be restructured. And our tech division, I smiled at Michael, will finally enter the 21st century. The next hour was a blur of presentations, votes, and signatures. By the time the press conference began, everything was done. Anderson Global had a new chairman, new leadership, and a new direction. As cameras flashed and reporters called out questions, I caught my family's shell-shocked expressions in the back of the room. Father looked aged, Mother was dabbing her eyes, and Michael stood frozen, his world collapsed around him. Ms. Carter, a reporter called out, what made you decide to take over your family's company? I thought about all the dinners where they'd belittled my dreams, all the meetings where they'd ignored my input, all the years they'd underestimated me. Let's just say, I smiled directly at my family, I had excellent motivation to succeed. Sometimes the best revenge is proving everyone wrong.